Hello teachers, and welcome to EDU 9506. That would be the course name for the licensure seminar that we are currently working on together. I'm excited to do this portion with you today. This portion is concerning everything that we have on the MLC website and the critically important components that you need as we work through Minnesota licensure. So the first thing that I'd like you to do is, however you'd like to bring up on your computer, the MLC website. And then when you bring up the MLC website, as we're going to go through this then, I'd like you to go to the search box. In the search box, you'll type in post back with two C's, so post, P-O-S-T, hyphen B-A-C-C, licensure. And then click search. Then you will see a screen and you will click on the first link which says post-bac licensure. You should arrive and you'll see the top of a nice delicious apple. And when you arrive there, this is the area that you will spend a great deal of time with, not just with this seminar, but then also as you continue with your process, as you know, with the connection with the master's program, and then also all of the process that we need for the licensure, you'll be going to this website quite a bit. So you'll want to link, first of all, the MLC website, you'll want to bookmark the MLC website. Then you'll also want to make sure that you can bookmark this post-baccalaureate licensure page. I appreciate all that my assistant Ken did to make this page available as we work together, but he is the guru of technology to get it all set. So let's look at the first page here, post-baccalaureate licensure. MLC's post-baccalaureate program is open to teachers who have graduated from Dr. Martin Luther College, DMLC, or Martin Luther College, MLC, with a Bachelor of Science in Education degree. The intent of this program is to enable veteran teachers to be eligible for their initial Minnesota teacher licensing or an add-on to an existing Minnesota license. We currently at MLC have 3 programs that are considered post-bac licensure programs. Those programs would be in early childhood, elementary, and secondary. The elementary program has been going the longest time. So we're very fortunate for this because this allows teachers who graduated from DMLC, or in the case of early childhood, even MLC, to be able to go back then and to get this license. We've always been an accredited institution, but the licensure is a different story. So we're very excited to offer these 3 programs. Now, as you look further down, then you're going to see the contact information. And the contact information is myself as the licensure officer. And there you see my phone number and anything else that you need as far as my extension. And then Ken Board, my assistant. And I'm so thankful for everything that he knows when I'm not in the office. If I'm off campus at a conference or teaching a course, you can email or call Ken and he will give you the answers, or find me and we will get the answers back to you as soon as possible. Then also underneath you'll see the licensure office. This would be if you have to send any kind of correspondence to us. Please make sure that after you have addressed it to Martin Luther College, that you make sure that you put licensure office, and then we'll make sure that it gets to us faster through the campus mail. Then going down further, you'll also notice that there's handbooks and guidelines, first steps towards accomplishing your licensure, testing information, professional experience information. Ken has included it here because some of you may prefer to go into this section, but where I'm going to take you today would be teachers over to the left-hand side where you see the post-bac licensure. It's a tan-colored box. So everything that Ken has under the handbook and guidelines is also a separate link under each of these pieces under the post-bac licensure tab. So to make it a little bit easier today, that's what we're going to do. We're going to go under the Post-Bac Licensure tab and work through each of the components there. The first thing that I'd like to say is that we are actually going from what I would say part to whole. So as I take you through the separate parts today, I want you to realize that those separate parts are going to then culminate in what we would call the whole, into the handbook, into WHOLE, the handbook, into the portfolio guidelines, into everything else that you need with the bigger picture. So as I said, we're going to start with the parts first. The first part that I'd like you to look at is the audit request form. So if on the left-hand side, you would just click on the audit request form, you'll notice that more than likely, this should be a form that you have already completed and sent back to us. And so Ken has this all arranged, and you go through it step by step, which you know you have done. And what this audit does is it gives us a good picture of your ministry and all the things that you have done and the places you have served, centers, public, charter, substituting, calls, everything that you've done in the way you've served your Lord is then on this audit form. And it helps us then to know grade levels, locations, all of these variety of types of things. So thank you for doing this audit request form. That's critically important as we work through everything. The second item that you have already done would be the application form. And if you click on the application form, again, the information that's needed there. Now I'm going to just have you scroll down a little bit. And on that application form, you have told us what license or licenses, but in most cases, for those of you that are in this combo program with the master's and obviously with licensure, this is set up for the K6. Now, some of you may choose elementary K6. Some of you may choose elementary K6 with an endorsement, and we're going to talk about that more later. But right now, as far as the master's program is concerned, we're basically dealing with that elementary K6. I also have post-bac students who are not in the master's program who are eligible to do other pieces for post-bac also. Now, please remember as we're going through this, I hope you're jotting down your questions, because there is going to be a time that we're all going to visit together and talk about this at the end of the seminar. Plus also you're going to set up your course plan. So if you clicked on something here and as you sent it in to us, it doesn't mean that your application can't be changed just saying to me or to Ken or to both of us, I'd like to change my licensure to this or to that. And when I explain the this or that, that'll come up a little bit later. So again, critically important with the application form that also has been done already. Now we're going to get into some of the new pieces. And the next piece would be called the assessment form. As you click on the assessment form, the important thing that I want to mention to you here is that this assessment form is completed by your supervising teacher. Now, some of you may have more than one supervising teacher. I'll explain that a little bit later, but let's just stick with the fact of a supervising teacher fills out this assessment form. So the way that this will go to your teacher is, of course, they can just click on it and fill it in. You can send them the link, whatever you'd like to do, but it will be all about them filling everything in. But the reason I want you to make sure that you look at this, and this, of course, will be when you're doing your professional experience. The reason I want you to look at it is because it's critically important for you to know how you will be assessed. So if you go to the second page, it says, the statements below are based on the standards of effective practice as outlined in the teacher licensure requirements from the state of Minnesota. The teacher candidate should demonstrate these standards in his or her teaching and interaction with children and adolescents. Mark appropriately whether the standard is evident in the teacher candidate's planning, teaching, or assessing learning. Teacher candidate obviously means you. We do not call you a student teacher because you're not doing student teaching. You've already done student teaching. That was done in your undergrad program, and I like to make that difference very clear. This is called a professional experience because that's exactly what it is. What you're doing is you are completing a professional experience to show that you are still teaching, that you are still an effective teacher and becoming even more effective. And therefore then, when you and I work together with your license application, I can say that I have verified you as a teacher who is still teaching and is an effective teacher. So this is based on the 10 standards of effective practice. Now you've seen those 10 standards because that already has been done in a different part of this seminar. But I just want you to see how it's now looking as you see it on this assessment form. Don't worry about the numbers in parentheses, teachers. These are for me so that I know that all the standards are being met. But then your supervisor would, for example, read each of these portions of the standards, check the yes, the no, or the partly, and make comments, which are optional. So all of that is gone through. And then as you move down to the bottom, you're going to see that there's a next button. And then finally, the last page asks for the signature of the supervising teacher. And then Ken has it very boldly marked there that submit to the MLC licensure office so that we're set to go. The other item that I just want to go back to is if you would go back to the first page, please, you will see that there's also a section down at the bottom that says, what's the minority percentage and the documented special needs percentage? Again, your classroom supervisor takes care of that. And if it turns out to be a 0, there's no problem with that. We will work on that, and I'll explain that a little bit more in another form that's coming up soon. So let's recap. What is this form about? This form is the assessment form that is filled out by your supervising teacher when you complete the professional experience with him or her. And I'm slowing down just because I just want to bring that back again as to why you would be looking at this and why you need this. Let's click out of the assessment form and then go to the contract. Now this is a contract, and again, you can either send your supervisor to the MLC website, you can send this as a link to your supervisor. The purpose of this contract, as I'm reading at the top, is to declare the partnership between the school district, center, and Martin Luther College to provide a professional experience for the MLC post-baccalaureate teacher. Your partnership allows him or her a professional experience for the specified length of time in a classroom setting. So now this is the contract, and again, this would be communication between you and your classroom supervisor. So let me explain, please. I do not tell you when your professional experience must be completed. As a combo person, you already know that it's done toward the end of your professional experience, the end of your master's program. But what I'm talking about is I don't tell you is that I don't say you must start the first day of school and then go 10 weeks. You can do this at any particular time in the school year as long as these 10 weeks are consecutive. Now, holidays can fall in there. That's okay. Then you just keep on going after the holidays. In-service days, conferences, anything like that. You just work around, but we want the 10 weeks to be as consecutive as possible. So you couldn't do, let me give you a negative example. You couldn't do 5 weeks, February, March, and then 5 weeks in May and June. That obviously would not be consecutive. And I don't mean to be condescending here. I just want to make sure that you're clear. Now, when I'm talking about the 10 weeks of the professional experience, this is also a time when I want to explain to you that some of you will be doing what we call a 7-3 split. No matter what, the professional experience is 10 weeks. But why there would be a 7-3 split is because when looking at your audit form, there may be some of you who have never had any public school experience. And so therefore, graciously, the state of Minnesota has said that you only have to spend 3 weeks in a professional experience in a public school setting. Now, I'll get back to those 3 weeks in just a minute. So what I'm saying then is the 7 weeks would be done in your own classroom, or if you're not currently teaching, which I'm sure that most of you are, in a classroom that you find, but 7 weeks in your own classroom, and then 3 weeks in a public school classroom. So 7 weeks in your own classroom, 3 weeks in a public school classroom, if you don't have any public school experience noted on your audit form. Now, let me stop right there. Do not become alarmed and say, oh, I have to get out of the master's combo program. This will never happen. I can't stop my call. No, no, no. The idea is this. The state also allows us to use summer school programs. So you don't have to try to find a way to leave your classroom for 3 weeks to go into the public school. For example, here in Minnesota, I have teachers go over to the Sleepy Eye program, and they work for 3 weeks in that setting. I have some people who are doing 3 weeks of VBS because that, again, is bringing in the public sector. We will work with you in any way, teachers, to make sure that you can satisfy that 3-week public school experience. Number one, you don't have to come to Minnesota. Again, thankful to the state for that. So you can find a public school experience in your own community, your own back door. All you have to do is verify that with me, that you've set that up. This has been a lot to think about, so let me just wrap that up again. So for some of you, you will fill out 2 contracts because you'll have a contract for the experience at your WELL school or your L school, and then you'll have a contract for your public school experience. And each time that needs to be filled out so that we can verify to the state that if you're doing the 7-3, we can put that together that makes the 10, or if you're doing the 10, we have the 1 contract. And then you talk with the supervisor or supervisors as to when you want the dates of the experience to happen. For some of you, if you are teaching half days, then we would turn the experience into 20 weeks. So half days for 20 weeks. So this is the contract then that takes place. And as far as the contract, again, realizing that you don't even, it's not that you can't think about a supervisor already, but you don't have to be thinking about this till you get toward the end of your master's program. And then the other item is this. We also need to make sure to remember that this person who is going to be working with you and supervising you is a licensed teacher. Now, if you don't have a licensed teacher in your WELL school, you may want to go into the congregation, as I have had some people do, and find a retired public school teacher or retired WELS teacher who has his or her license, and that will work just fine. So, take a deep breath. You've now learned quite a bit. The audit request form, which has been completed. The application form, which has been completed. And now we've looked at 2 critical pieces. The assessment form as to how you will be assessed. And again, for some of you, that will be twice if you need the 2 experiences. And the contract form. Again, for the professional experience, for some of you, 2 of those, some of you, 1. Next, teachers, on the left-hand side, we're going to click on the diversity verification form. The diversity verification form is very important in a different light than the other forms that we've been talking about. It says, describe your teaching experiences with students of various cultures and documented special needs. And the key word there is documented. Example, the dates, the number of students, teaching modifications, your reflections, and teaching these students. So this is a form that you fill out. So you're going to put your name in there, and then it's critically important that you put your email address in, because then you'll also get a copy of this back. Now, some of you may want to use this diversity form in your portfolio. I'm going to be talking about that more later in the portfolio guidelines. So let's just go back to the form itself. What I have to show as far as Minnesota licensure is concerned is that somewhere in your teaching experience, which could also include the professional experience that's coming up, that you have worked with children from various cultures and that you have worked with children with documented special needs. Now, when we say the various cultures, that doesn't mean that you have to have worked with every culture. We know the blessing of the Lord giving us so many, but the idea is just to show that you have worked with a variety. And then the documented special needs. Now, I don't want you to be concerned about the percentages or how that calculates. We'll take care of that on our end. But it would be critically important for you to put down, for example, in my classroom of 25, I remember that I had 2 students that had documented special needs. Or over the years, I've had 150 students and I've had 5. Whatever you can do to help us to understand basically about the amount, the number, and then also the dates. But then the other parts would be this. How did you modify your teaching and your reflections? And remember, an effective teacher, don't kick yourself here. That's not the idea, but maybe even statements about, if I could go back, what I've learned now, maybe I would have done this differently when I taught the lesson, or change the learning environment or something like that. So this does not have to be lengthy. Actually, it will depend upon how many experiences that you've had. So as you can see, there's a box for you to fill in concerning the various cultures, and then the documented special needs. And then you're going to type in your date and sign it. Now, let's say that you haven't had work with various cultures up to this point. Then you don't want to fill this out yet. Instead, what you want to do is wait until you complete your professional experience for the combo program. And then you would fill this out. So we don't want you to send it to us or that you fill it out with just one portion done. I mean, you can do that for yourself, but don't submit it yet to us, because as you can see down at the bottom, you've got the red button that says submit. We want to make sure that both are completed. So if there's something that you need yet as far as the cultures are concerned or the special needs, and you're going to do it in the professional experience in the master's combo, then wait and fill this out later. If you think that in your teaching experience already you have both of these, and you can give us examples, then go ahead and fill it out and send it in. So the timing is what you need to do as far as making sure that this can happen. We'll click out, and then we will go to the goals form. Just as in your teaching, and when you speak with your students, and you think about your master's program and the goals that you have, so the same can be said for the professional experience. So on the top you see it says, goals, professional experience. Please submit these goals before beginning your professional experience in the classroom. And if you're doing 2 in order to accomplish the public portion, if you didn't have that yet, then you would submit these goals before you begin your first experience. I'm going to go slowly on this too, because I know sometimes I'm so passionate about this, I talk a little quickly. You only fill out 2 goals, even if you're going to do 2 experiences. So I just need 1 goal sheet, so as you begin your professional experience, I know what you're doing. So don't send in 2. Send in 1 goal sheet, please. Goal number 1, goal number 2. Here's the next point. Be as general or as specific as you would like them to be. You can't be wrong here. What you're doing is some self-reflection, and you're saying, okay, what do I really want to think about? What do I want that supervising teacher to help me with? When Dr. Wheeler looks at my DVDs or my flash drive, however you're going to send it in, what do I want to have happen so that I can look at these goals and I can say, yes, these are things I really want to accomplish. So again, as general or as specific. And then finally, the importance of these goals are also because you will write about them in your reflection journal. That will come a little bit later when we talk about that, but goals will also be used in the writing in your journal. Please go down to the bottom. After submission, you will receive a copy of your goals via email. You will write about accomplishing these goals in your reflection journal. So I already have a reminder there that there will be a journal connection here. And we'll back out of this one. And then we will go to the lesson plan template. As we look at the lesson plan template, maybe this looks kind of familiar to some of you. You remember the wonderful instructional procedures that we all learned as we've all written detailed lesson plans. Teachers, I'm not going against my word of what I said earlier. When I'm talking about these lesson plans right now, I don't want you to think that you're going back to student teaching where you have to write detailed lesson plans every single day. No. All right? So here's the key. You use this lesson plan format when you are writing the 2 lesson plans that go with the 2 lessons that you video record. Okay, how many lesson plans of this type? 2. How many do you video record? 2. And you can do this anytime during your professional experience. You don't have to wait until the last week. Anytime during the experience. Now, what are you doing with planning the other times? More than likely, I'm thinking that you're obviously using your own block plan, or when you're working, if you're in the public sector, you're going to be using your supervising teacher's block plans. But a reminder that you video record the 2 lesson plans. Now, we're going to stop there for just a second. So, the question would be, so do I video record 2 lessons if you're doing the double, when I say the double, I'm saying 7 weeks in your own classroom, 3 weeks in the public school. Yes, you video record 2 lessons in your own classroom, 2 lessons in the public sector. If you're doing 10 weeks in your own classroom, you only have to do the 2 lessons. Now, why do you have to do more the other way? Because I don't know, when it comes time to your portfolio, you may want to use some of that video recording from the public sector that you put into your portfolio presentation, and more on that later. But I just want you to be aware. Plus, teachers have said to me, well, can I record as many lessons as I want? By all means. But the ones that you send to me for me to critique, those 2, must have lesson plans that go along with them. So let's take a look at this lesson plan. I don't think that anything should surprise you. Again, in some cases, you won't have a textbook. You might be using other resources. Then just leave that blank. Don't forget to fill in the obvious up on top. Differentiated instructional strategies, I don't have a minimum number there, but think about your own classroom. For some of you, it might just be good to Google differentiation, or the researcher, Carol Tomlinson. There's many researchers on differentiation if you need just a brush up on what you might be looking at. But again, how are you especially going to meet the needs of your learners in your classroom or classrooms if you're doing 2 experiences? And then basically the same 6 instructional procedures. And when I say detailed here, I'm not asking you necessarily to write every question and every answer. But I would like to get the general gist of where you're going. I'd like to know if you switch from whole group to small group and back, or start with small group, whatever you're doing. But give me a lesson plan that I can follow, because obviously I'm looking at that plan. And first of all, your supervising teacher will be looking at it that day as you're teaching and helping you record. So give me as much detail as you can, but like I said, I'm not looking for every question and every answer. Maybe we might call it a semi-detailed. And then of course you're going to go through all of the 6 parts. Then finally, as you look down at the bottom, please make sure that you fill in the lesson reflection before you send these to me. If you forget to do this part, I will send it back to you because I need to see that you have reflected. And so often we do it in our minds in a variety of times during the day or evening or on our drive to and from school. But in this case, I need to have it be written, please. Let's click out. And then let's look at the next link, which would be the Minnesota Standards of Effective Practice. Now, you have seen these already, teachers, because this is something that I had you do when you were doing a different part of the seminar. So you looked at these standards, you're understanding these standards, but I wanted you to know that there's a link to these standards also on the website. So that's why we're here. Maybe your supervising teacher might ask you, could you send those standards to me? Well, you can just have them, send this link or send them to the website. But I also want you to know that it's a good reminder that it's a quick way for you to get there, because you definitely will be using these standards when you put your portfolio together, and then obviously as you present. So I'd just like to make sure that you know that this link is here for you. So 8710-2000, the Standards of Effective Practice for Teachers. You have that link easily at your access. Now as we look at the links on the left-hand side, teachers, we're going to be clicking on the MTLE testing info. When you click on that, a chart will come up. First of all, I know your eyes are going to want to be looking at the chart, but if you can just hang on a minute and let me give you a couple of pieces of information, I'd sure appreciate it. First of all, I would just like to explain that sometimes the testing is what makes people so fearful about this post-bac program and about Minnesota licensure. And I want you to understand that this testing should not prohibit anybody from getting their license. And the reason I want to tell you that is because we don't count how many times a teacher may have to take a test again. Normally I see that veteran teachers do very well on these exams, and I'm going to talk about them individually in a little bit. But I just want to make you aware of the fact that there are helps. And if you take an opportunity to look at what the test is like and do the studying that you need, you will be successful with these. So as we go to the chart now, I'd like to make you aware of the MTLE. MTLE stands for Minnesota Teacher Licensure Examination. You have probably heard of praxis tests, maybe in the state that you're currently living in, or another state test. In Minnesota, we no longer give the praxis tests, but instead we now have created our own, which are the MTLE licensure tests. As you look at this chart, we're basically just going to look at the top section where it says MTLE tests single majors. because that is basically what each of you would be doing. As you look at the chart, it's color coordinated. The color coordination is yellow for early childhood, blue for elementary, and green for secondary. At this point in time with the combo program, we basically are going to look at the blue section. The other sections are for those people who are not in the combo program but are pursuing their post-baccalaureate requirements in a different way. So we're going to look at this blue section, elementary K6. When we look at this, teachers, I also want you to be aware of this is the only column that you have to concern yourself with. Now, Ken has created this chart, and if you look over, there's also a white section, and what that just refers to is the fact that it's giving the headings of the names of the tests. So if you look at the white section, it says MTLE tests, basic skills tests, and then if you proceed right over into the blue section, you'll see the reading, writing, and mathematics. So these are the three tests encompassed in basic skills: reading, writing, and mathematics. So there's a subtest for each section. So as you're looking at that then, the way we normally do this is you would be taking the reading, the writing, and the math, the basic skills, all in one sitting, however you would prefer to say it. That's usually how that's accomplished. Then I'm going to just give the quick overview and then come back and talk about each of these again. Then we have what's called the pedagogy test. And if you go over there, it's called the elementary pedagogy test, K6. And then there are two subtests that go with that. And then if you bump down, there's the content area tests. And again, elementary education, K6. There are three subtests to that. Now I'm going to speak to this last part and then go back up to the major section here in the elementary K6. This last part would be whether or not you are a K6 person and you would like to get an endorsement. And the endorsement would mean another addition on your license. The endorsement covers what we would call the 5-8 component. Some of you, depending upon when you graduated from D/MLC, may have graduated with a specialty. You could take that specialty, maybe it was in math or social studies. And you now then could take one more test. Let's say it's social studies. So if you look here, it'll say ML social studies, which means middle level. And if you wanted that endorsement, then you would take that test and then the two subparts that go with it. So there's two subparts to that test. So if you were an elementary person with an endorsement, you would take the basic skills, the elementary pedagogy, the elementary education content, and then your endorsement / minor or minor / endorsement test. If you're not going for an endorsement and you don't need to do that, or that could be something that you do later on, this is basically where all of you are right now in the master's combo program. So you'd be taking the basic skills, reading, writing, and mathematics, pedagogy, elementary, and content area, elementary. Now I'd like you to go over here, please, to where you see, and when I say over here, go underneath the secondary green box and you'll see where it says register for MTLE tests on the website. So what Ken has done is kind of tried to skip a step here for you and put it right on this chart. So you can click on this website and it can take you right away to the MTLE site where you would register for the tests. Now let me give you some important points to remember here. And again, I'll go a little bit more slowly. You can take the tests in any order that you want to. So if you're a person who says, you know what, I think I want to do basic skills and then content and then pedagogy, that's fine. I want to do pedagogy because as a veteran teacher, looking at the samples, I think I feel pretty good about that. Then I'm going to take basic skills and content. My point is this: you can take them in any order. If you need to repeat a test, you can still take a different test and then come back and repeat the test or portion of the test that you need. So let's say, for example, you take the basic skills and you pass the writing and mathematics, but you don't pass the reading. Then you could go on and take the pedagogy test and come back and take the reading at a later date, or the content test. So there's a variety of ways that you can accomplish these tests. And as I said before, we do not count how many times. The goal is you pass, whatever it takes. I realize it affects the pocketbook. I understand that. I've taken tests too. I have for my licensure, so I understand completely. But I just want to make you aware of no one knows. And don't feel bad about, oh, I'm a veteran teacher, I shouldn't make a mistake here. Don't even think about that. The second point I want to make you aware of is this. When you click on the MTLE website to register, you can go to a test center near your home. There's this idea that you have to come back to Minnesota, and I think I understand why, because obviously it's called the Minnesota licensure exams, but you don't come back to Minnesota. You go to a testing center that's near you, and then that testing center will have your tests. So when you go into the MTLE website to register, you can click on the test center. It'll give you all kinds of information that you need, and then you register whenever you want. And some of these test centers are open 7 days a week and quite a number of hours during the day. So let's say you're doing VBS or something, you can take a test at night. It just depends upon the test center as to where you would be going. So these are located all over the United States. So not to worry about that. And then secondly, how do you study? Well, when you click on the MTLE website and you look at that, you're going to see that there are free materials right on the website. There are also some materials that you can pay about $18 for, and that gives you a preliminary test to look at kind of a sample of what the real one is like. So you can take that, and it can help you also with knowing how you can improve before you take the real one. All I ask you to do is to make sure that you look at what does the test encompass. So if you take just the free materials, at least you know what kinds of questions. You'll also, when you're registering and checking it out, you'll know the duration of the test, what kinds of questions, all different kinds of things that will help you. So you'll want to take some time to study this MTLE website for when you want to register. The final point that I want to make here would be this. When I mentioned about taking the test whenever you want, I just want to re-emphasize though that you would have to make sure you have taken the tests and passed the tests before you apply for your licensure. So a person could do their coursework, do their professional experience, present their portfolio, take the tests. A person could sprinkle the tests throughout. A person could take the test first and then start the coursework and the professional experience and the portfolio. The goal is the coursework, the professional experience, and the portfolio, those coursework and professional experience have to be done before you do the portfolio. But the tests do not. But all four pieces, coursework, test work, testing, professional experience, and portfolio, must be completed before you apply for that license. And depending upon when you finish your program, I'm just going to say right now, if there was a test that you did not pass, you can get a 1-year temporary license at this point. But I never know when the state might take away that temporary license and say everybody has to pass every test before you apply. So when we set up your course plan and we talk through this, we will keep you updated on how the Minnesota standards as far as are concerned, as far as the testing is concerned. So basically what I just want you to keep in mind is the passing of the tests are critically important, and that you need to take all of them in that blue section except for an endorsement, and an endorsement is optional. Okay, let's take a deep breath on that one. Elementary K6 MTLE tests. You will be fine, and we will happily help you through these. Next, as we look at our links, we're going to go to the Professional Experience Guidelines. When we go to the Professional Experience Guidelines, this is kind of going again from the part to the whole. So in other words, we've talked about some of these pieces already, and now we're just bringing it back together in one overview, one document to help you. So as you read through, the first section is for you. And that section, again, will give the highlights and the main points of everything that I said earlier. It shows you the standards of effective practice. It reminds you of your professional goals. But I'd like you to look at the fourth bullet point especially. We haven't referred to that yet very much, and that is that reflection journal. In this combo program, we allow you to keep your reflection journal in a Word document. And so for some of you, you may have worked with student teachers or EFE teachers from MLC who have kept a black visible journal. In this case, with this program, we do it as a Word document. And you're going to complete that reflection journal either in your 10-week or your 7 and 3-week experiences with writing at least 2 entries per week. And then the journal is going to refer to some of the MOEs, and if you notice in bullet point 4 it says MOE. Here's your first quiz question. Not expecting you to know what MOE is, but here we go. Models of evidence. In your portfolio, they'll always be referred to as models of evidence. Maybe some of you have heard the term artifacts. Maybe some of you have a different term for it if you use portfolios in your own setting. So, what's MOE? Models of evidence. And some of those models of evidence in your portfolio require you to look back at your reflection journal. And we'll talk about that more. Then going on with the bullet points, video recording your lessons. And then the last bullet point, making sure that you send your $500 for your professional experience fee before you begin that first experience. The second section then is about the what the licensed classroom supervisor is expected to do. Provide supervision for you, give you guidance, encouragement, and critical feedback, observe you, and in bullet point 3, I've got a variety of options as far as how that can take place, because it really depends upon who your supervisor is and how you can get that to be worked out. But the supervisor should be able to see you teach your lessons, at least everything you teach, at least once, if not more. And more of that will be discussed as we set up your plan. Then there's a honorarium that will be sent to the supervising teacher. The supervising teacher will also read your journal and comment, or at least sign off and date. And then your supervising teacher will also help you with the lessons that you are going to record, maybe helping you pick out the lessons, listening to you as you give the feedback, so on and so forth. So basically this is just what we call the nice one-page sheet that helps you understand what the professional experience is all about. And then of course that contract would be connected with this, and then your goals form and your assessment form.